On July the 21st, 1907, a concession was granted for a railway from Brigg to Gletsch, and followed 18 months later by one from Gletsch to Disentis. On May the 27th, 1910, the Compagnie Suisse du Chemin de Fer La Furka was chartered in Lausanne. Construction began on June the 22nd, 1911, near Natas. 4 years later, the Furka-Bahn opened its first 46 kilometers of line between Brigg and Gletsch. After bankruptcy of the Furka-Bahn caused by cash flow problems, construction was resumed under a newly chartered company, the Furka-Oberalp-Bahn. Eventually, the rail link between Brigg and Disentis was inaugurated on July the 3rd, 1923. Our journey over the meter-gauge Furka-Oberalp-Bahn starts in Disentis. Dominating the town is the monumental Benedictine monastery, founded here in 765. Over the years, Disentis has been the FO's classic exchange point with the Rätische Bahn. Seen in the 70s, locomotive 403, one of the famous Rätische crocodiles, arrives with a train from Chur, followed by number 36 with a train from Andermatt. With her characteristic porches at either end, number 36 is equally typical for the Furka-Oberalp-Bahn, even after 60 years, still in active service. Number 605, a first-generation GE44, still wears the old green of the Rätische Bahn. She runs around her train before returning to Chur. Disentis in the 21st century. A regional train powered by a second-generation DEH44 departs from a newly erected canopy. A shortage in motive power keeps good old 36 in service to run the train to Oberalp and return each day. The first rack section of the line starts here in the tunnel. The present monastery and its characteristic towers were constructed between 1683 and 1695. Situated at the base of the Lukmanier and Oberalp passes, Disentis largely depended on income generated by these mountain crossings until the Gotthard Railway opened. Almost overnight, traffic and income dwindled and forced Disentis to focus on tourism, and this tourism flourished, especially when the meter-gauge railways were completed. A second-generation HGE-44 in charge of the Glacier Express negotiates the Bunyai Viaduct between Disentis and Sedrun. The site of the central bore of the new Gotthard base tunnel is right here in Sedrun, and locally known as the Mittenangriff. with Sedren in the background, a regional train halts at Roras. We barely seem to climb at all on the way up to the 2,033-meter-high Oberalp Pass. Beyond the Val-Gjof viaduct near Dieni, the second rack section towards Zermatt begins. We momentarily return to Sedrun in the winter. Here, a car ferry service is provided for those motorists trapped by the closure of the Oberalp Pass in times of heavy snowfall. Capacity is limited, so advanced reservations are recommended. Already an attraction in the summer, the Glacier Express has a special lure on a sunny winter day. Everyone on board enjoys the experience.
Dahinter auf dem Felssporn Zermatt. Am Ende
The 1 in 9 climb to Oberalp Pass Höhe starts near Dieni, aided by the shore footing of Rack and Pinion Drive. Winter in the mountains does not always offer a picture postcard atmosphere. At Oberalp Pass Höhe, at the crest of the 2,033-meter pass, we are greeted by the grim reality of a blizzard. Die-hard skiers, of course, are not deterred. The ski lift is but a short walk away. In fair weather once more, number 94 arrives at Oberalp Pass Höhe to pass the train to Andermatt. Nicknamed balcony locos, the HG44s were built by SLM Winterthur. They were the hallmark of Furka-Oberalp rolling stock for many years. All 4 axles are powered by a separate traction motor and feature a cogwheel for rack operation. The combined horsepower rating is 1,240 or 910 kilowatts. The locomotives also feature a luggage compartment. Departure at Oberalp Pass Höhe is on level track and so requires little effort. On the way to Andermatt, the line follows the shores of Lake Oberalp through a bare, treeless landscape. The snow shed marks the border between two cantons. Leaving Graubünden, we enter Uri. A stands for Anfang, the beginning of another rack section. This time, it's a 1 in 9 descent to Göschenen and Andermatt. Andermatt was founded in the 12th century by immigrants from the neighboring canton of Wallis. The town lies 1,444 meters above sea level and largely depends on tourism, for which the Furka-Oberalp contributes in no small way. Also of special note is the rail link through the steep Schöllenen gorge to Göschenen, where it connects with the SBB Gotthard line. The opening of the Gotthard Railway in 1882 diverted traffic away from the old Gotthard Pass and caused an economic slump in the Urseren Valley. It wasn't long before ideas emerged to connect Andermatt with Göschenen by rail. The most feasible plan was launched by engineer Richard Chocker in 1903, who proposed a meter gauge line of 4 kilometers length using rack drive. Funding, however, was not secured until 1912. Eventually, construction of the Schöllenen Bahn began on 23rd of May 1913. As is often the case, financial problems haunted the fledgling company, so the line's completion dragged on until 1917. But at last, a cumbersome journey of 1 hour by coach was reduced to a comfortable train ride of 25 minutes. In 1941, the original 1200-volt DC power supply was converted to 11,000-volt AC, simultaneously with the electrification of the Furka-Oberalp-Bahn. This close cooperation between the two companies eventually led to a merger in 1961. The old HGE 22 needed 25 minutes to climb to Andermatt. FO's second-generation Day 44 takes just 10 minutes on the way up, but 15 on the way down. Braking apparently demands more precaution on gradients of up to 1 in 5.6. Göschenen. The entrance of the Gotthard railway tunnel is on the right, and the Furka-Oberalp on the station square at left. We continue through the Urseren Valley, past Hospental and over the Richleren Viaduct, which spans the Furka-Reuss. During the 13th century, in an effort to escape poor living conditions, many farmers from Wallis ventured over the Furka Pass to try their luck elsewhere on the south side of the Alps. Some settled in the sparsely populated Urseren Valley, but many pressed on across the Oberalp into Graubünden. At the end of the Urseren Valley lies the village of Realp. In the summer, it's an excellent base for mountain walks. In the winter, the threat of avalanches often looms. Here, one finds not only the start of the Furka Pass, but also the east entrance of the Furka Base Tunnel. Opened on October the 11th, 1981, the 15.4-kilometer-long tunnel finally allowed train services between Wallis and Uri to be maintained all year round. Realp, on a bright summer's day, members of the Furka Mountain Steam Railway, DFB for short, prepare for another weekend of operation. Rolling stock is cleaned, the locomotive is fired up, and the laundry is almost dry. Business as usual, one might say, were it not for the huge commitment demanded from DFB volunteers before the season opens. The actual work starts in the spring, when the line has to be dug out from the snowdrifts. The Steffenbach Bridge has to be put back in place too. The deck is recuperated from where it was left before the winter, folded out of the way of the destructive forces of avalanches. This procedure of retracting and unfolding has been repeated every season since completion of the bridge in 1925. Originally, the Steffenbach was spanned by a stone arch bridge. Unfortunately, nobody had taken the likelihood of Steffenbach avalanches into account, and the bridge was already destroyed on May 16, 1916, after barely a train had crossed it. However ingenious the folding bridge may be, the task of resurrecting it remains monumental. To show the full extent of the extraordinary procedure, the film has been speeded up. In real time, it takes days. Once the bridge is back in place, there is still more snow to be cleared. Since the DFB reinstated the track to Gletsch, the assault on snow is taken up from both ends of the line. All hardship is soon forgotten with sights and sounds like these. The last FO train to Andermatt went over the pass in the evening of October the 11th, 1981. After more than 55 years of operations on the mountain, the rails were destined to be broken up. But fans were not ready to part with their favorite line and managed to postpone its dismantling. Later, on December 1983, the Verein Furka Bergstrecke the Furka Mountain Society was founded. Their action eventually led to the charter of the DFB, the Dampfbahn Furka Bergstrecke, or Furka Mountain Steam Railway. The line was saved from demolition and was henceforth to be rebuilt and maintained by volunteers, not as an electric railway, but back in time to the early days of steam. The original steam locomotives were bought and retrieved from Vietnam and received a complete overhaul. Volunteers from many countries sacrificed their spare time to fix up the right-of-way. This is the result of their hard labor. Enjoy. As bridge route between the Rätische Bahn and the BVZ Zermatt-Bahn, electrification of the FO made sense and was seriously contemplated from 1930 onwards. The Second World War merely speeded up preparations. Erection of the overhead catenary started in June 1940 between Andermatt and Göschenen and was completed for the entire line by July 1, 1942. At that date, the FO possessed 4 balcony locomotives numbered 31 to 34 and 5 motor coaches BDEH-24. A first-generation Day 44, introduced in 1972, arrives from Oberwald in Gletsch. To the Fronis, the nickname for DFB volunteers, Gletsch is just a temporary terminus. Their goal is to reach Oberwald and have the entire mountain route back in operation. Besides year-round train services, the Furka base tunnel also enabled the introduction of a car ferry between Realp and Oberwald. Previously, Realp had been a dead end to motorists when the Furka Pass closed in the winter. The FO introduced completely new car ferry trains that remained unique to a meter gauge railway for 17 years. They were developed using the expertise of the SBB, BLS and Swiss railway industry and are pulled or pushed by GE 4 type locomotives. The first car ferry ran on September 26, 1982. Demand soon surpassed even the most optimistic forecasts. In the same winter of 1982, a similar service was introduced on the Oberalp, albeit on a limited scale using existing flat wagons. Arriving in Oberwald, we also enter the Goms, the German language region in Wallis. Here, one speaks of Rotten when referring to the River Rhone. Houses and barns are sunburnt and situated in a broad valley at high altitude surrounded by mighty mountain peaks. Here again, several mountain passes surrounding the Goms region were the main source of income. The Compagnie Suisse du Chemin de Fer La Furka-Brigue, Furka Descentis, was dominated by French interests. Hence, the Société des Batignolles in Paris received the order in 1910 to build a line and all its amenities between Brigue and Descentis. Construction began on June 22, 1911, near Natas. In 3 years' time, more than 1,500 workers finished the Wallis section of the line according to plans, including 11 stations and 5 halts with passing loops on the single-track line. However, the French contractor had but limited experience of railway construction in alpine regions, and consequently, some mistakes affect the railway even today. Instead of relying on adhesion working between Brigue and Oberwald, the French company opted for 3 steep ascents to be worked by the Anscott third rail adhesion system. However, Swiss authorities rejected the Anscott system, and so the reliable Apt-Rack system was applied instead. Limited experience caused French engineers also to opt for steam power rather than the electric traction envisaged in earlier designs, inspired by the favorable experiences of the Montreux Oberland-Bahn. This is one of the rack sections in the Goms region near Grengiol. Maximum gradient is 1 in 15. We continue our descent via a spiral tunnel and another viaduct towards Brig. Standing 31 meters high and 106 meters long, the Grengiols is the tallest viaduct on the Furka-Oberalp. The vintage depots and sheds of the FO near Brig had little changed and were in dire need of replacement. In conjunction with an entire overhaul of the station area, a brand new complex was inaugurated on December the 11th, 1998 in Brig Gliesegrund. The new complex offers generous space and features all modern amenities to deal with repairs, periodical overhauls and reconstruction. Here, the rolling stock is also prepared for daily service. The application of new techniques has greatly reduced maintenance time. Once, number 106 was white and carried advertising to promote the Olympic Winter Games in Wallis. Now it's all black, because the games were awarded to Italy, right? Not quite. No hard feelings, just black to advertise the car ferries through the tunnel. There where a locomotive can't progress under its own power, a hydraulic arm helps out. The shops offer an awful lot of spare space, with an eye towards accommodating rolling stock of the Brig VZ Zermatt Railway. Our journey ends in the railway hub that is Brig, with its SBB station serving both national and international traffic. The Furka-Oberalp and Brig-Visp Zermatt railways have their place in the station square. 1993 was a bad year for Brig, when the Rhone inundated the town centre following severe thunderstorms. The damage to FO property alone amounted to millions of Swiss francs, and rebuilding of the town centre took years. The station area has been notably improved in recent years, but one wish remains. Both meter gauge companies seek a meter gauge station at the same elevated level as the SBB. Whether this dream will be fulfilled remains yet to be seen. The 75th anniversary of the FO saw a DFB party, culminating in a DFB excursion train from Disentis via Andermatt to Gletsch. The special was pulled by Balcony Loco 33 between Disentis and Andermatt, after which number 1 of the DFB took over. Although number 1's boiler had just been overhauled in Chur in some haste, she performed flawlessly on the way to Realp and Gletsch.
ganze Zeit schon gesehen, Sie sind Jungs und Zugewerke.
Once more, old times were revived momentarily when the special bypassed the tunnel in Rialp to take the old mountain route. No anniversary is complete without a flashback in time. These images provide a glimpse of 1927 and speak for themselves. The special and our journey now terminate in Gletsch. If the Fronis have their way, Gletsch will be merely a stop and Oberwald the terminus when the centenary is celebrated.